like you had it all together when you were broken up inside. Yeah, right. Some of us are like, every day. Every God bacon day. Yes. I remember that, Mark. So, yes. That's the story and the situation with the centurion. He has to look like he has it together. He has to look like he's got everything organized. He has to look like he's in charge because he represents the Roman government. So we're going to start with the scene from The Chosen, and we're going to actually break this passage of Scripture into 2 weeks because it's so good. And so if you've been following along some, or if you've ever seen The Chosen, there's a moment in this episode where we see the Roman centurion, the powerful military leader, and he's struggling with something very deep inside. And so in The Chosen, they have it a little different, slightly different, and so we're showing this a little bit before he goes to Jesus. And it's interesting, this is also found in Matthew chapter 8, and so there's slightly difference in the way they report it. And in The Chosen, they have chosen to make his servant his son, his illegitimate son. So there's the wordplay there, and you're going to see that. But I want you to watch this powerful scene from The Chosen.
I'm sorry, why does Jesus need to see Marius?
Matthew, I made a mistake that resulted in a child born not of my wife.
Doesn't that happen to people all the time? I apologize, but the risk of even greater offense, sometimes people are inclined to perceive judgment because they feel guilty.
I feel guilty for betraying my wife.
Do you feel repentant?
For that, yes. And I love my son.
And he's ill.
For a long time, yes.
Then why haven't you gone to see Jesus, guys?
I know you thought about this.
You told your family about a Jewish doctor.
Because I'm not worthy.
Neither was I.
Neither was I.
You do not know the things I have done.
You know, that's exactly what I said.
I'm an outsider.
One of his favorite kinds of people.
Someone who's not Jewish.
Yeah? Those dividing lines don't matter to him. It's part of the reason why he's in so much trouble.
Guys, do you believe he's from God? I know it must seem intimidating.
There, Thomas. There's no need to be afraid.
I do believe.
You're happy crying.
I know he can heal my son. Will you let me ask him?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Okay. Alright, that's enough, huh? You haven't even done to see me.
It's a great point. Why were you standing here? My son is as good as healed. Let's go.
Did he just convert?
Oh, that's such a great scene. So you have to remember that this Roman centurion has all the authority. All the authority in the town. He's the leader in the town. He can command soldiers, influence politics, make things happen. But there's this servant or son in his house who's dying, and all his power, all his position, all his influence can't do a thing about it. You can see it in his face. You can see the pain and the struggle and the agony and the concern. And he's like, I know what I can do, but I'm not sure if I can do it. What I should do, but I'm not sure if I can do it. This internal wrestling between what the world says he should do and what he actually feels inside. He's powerful, but he feels powerless. He's in charge, but he feels helpless. He's supposed to have all the answers, but he's desperate for help. Sound familiar? Does that resonate with anyone this morning? I think it resonates with a lot of us. Well, my guess is you're not a Roman centurion, but you know what it feels like to have everyone think you've got it all together. Well, inside, you're falling apart. Maybe you're in leadership somewhere, maybe at work, maybe in your family, maybe even here at the church, and people look to you for strength, but you feel anything but strong. You feel anything but powerful. Or maybe it's not about leadership at all. Maybe you just feel like you just don't belong. Like everyone else has figured out this faith thing, but you're still struggling. Maybe with doubts. It's almost like we think everyone else deserves God's attention, but surely not us. Not with our past. Not with our questions. Not with our struggles. Well, we met this Roman centurion who felt exactly the same way that I think a lot of us can relate to. And we're going to discover that the very thing that makes us feel unworthy is the very thing that opens the door to experiencing God's incredible grace. So the Roman centurion, he was an unlikely candidate. Of all the people, like in starting in verse 1, when Jesus had finished saying all this to the people who were listening, he entered Capernaum. There, a centurion servant whom his master valued highly was sick and was about to die. Now we need to understand what we're dealing with here. A Roman centurion was not someone you'd expect to show up in a story about faith. These were career military officers. Centurions commanded often 100 soldiers or more. They were enforcers of the Roman occupation. To the Jewish people, they represented everything that was wrong with their world. Think about that from the Jewish perspective. Here's a guy that works for the empire that's oppressing you. He's a Gentile. He's an outsider to the kingdom and to God's covenant people. His job is literally to keep you in line, to make you surrender, and to make you obey. If there's a list of people who don't deserve God's attention, most Jewish people would think he's near the top. But this is what I love about this story, and love about the gospel, and love about Jesus Christ. And what the Chosen has captured so beautifully. This centurion isn't just the cartoon villain we might expect. He's not Tom to Jerry. He's not the coyote to the roadrunner. By the way, did you see this week on the news about somebody painted the false tunnel and put a roadrunner beside it?
Oh my gosh.
No, I didn't see that one.
It was on Instagram, and so somebody had painted this, and so then this car is driving fast and looks at that tunnel and goes, "Oh, I'm going right." No, he's not. Whack, right into the wall. Now that's a coyote type of move, right? And that's kind of the thing we think a Roman centurion might be capable of doing. He's not the cartoon villain. He's not the person that's hiding. Like in Scooby-Doo, they always have that villain that's off. You remember Scooby-Doo?
Yep.
Yeah, right? Randy! so there's the villain that's trying to obstruct and stop everything from happening and the good from happening. And so, but that's not the centurion. He's a real person with real feelings, facing a real crisis that his power can't solve. His servant is dying. And Luke tells us it's not just any servant. That his servant was sick and was about to die. That the man valued him highly. That's why I love how the chosen put it. You're going to call him a servant, even though he might be your son, but you're still going to value him highly. But to the world, when you try to explain and try to excuse and try to hide behind your mistake and your sin, you're calling him a servant to protect him. It's kind of like when the kids camp catches you hugging somebody that's not your wife. Did you see that this week? How, if you didn't, how could you not, right? It's been everywhere. Good gravy, it's been everywhere. The centurion genuinely cares about the people under his authority. There's something different about him. And then he asks Jewish leaders. Matthew says it different. Matthew says the centurion came to Jesus and didn't go through the religious leaders. So it's probably a matter of perspective. It's probably a both and it might be that Luke is trying to protect the centurion, and so he's writing it and saying, hey, he went through the Jewish leaders instead of just coming to Jesus, so he's trying to protect his identity a little bit, which is completely viable and understandable, and so it's probably a both and. But he doesn't pull rake. He doesn't throw his weight around. Instead, he sends Jewish leaders to make his requests. Now, can you think about the conversation? I know that they represent the occupying forces making your life difficult, but my servant is dying, and I heard about this Jewish teacher who might be able to help. I know I'm the guy that's making life hard for you, but I really need your help. That would be a hard conversation to have. An incredibly vulnerable conversation. An incredibly authentic and real conversation. And a conversation that would have been extremely hard to say, I'm a Roman centurion. And someone I love, a young person I love, is sick and dying. Just think about how vulnerable that would have been. And how difficult and how hard that would have been. But here's what's beautiful. The Jewish leaders go according to Luke 5. Luke verses 7, chapter 7. And so these Jewish leaders were advocating for the Roman oppressor. Jesus, this guy's different. Jesus, this guy actually cares about us. Jesus, this guy really does want to do something a little bit different. And he's helped us. And he's fair and he's just. Jesus, this guy really is. He's Roman, but he's shown kindness to us. Now, I don't know about you, but that challenges me. How many times am I quick to write off people because they're different? Because of their position, their background, their politics, their past. How often do I assume someone doesn't deserve grace? Because they are different. But God doesn't work that way. Grace has a way of showing up in the most unexpected places. Through the most unlikely people. So, the heart of his unworthiness, here's where the story gets really powerful. And Jesus agrees to come, and so he does. And then he sees the Roman centurion, and the words are, Lord, don't trouble yourself, For I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. I don't deserve. Think about that. The Roman centurion, the same soldiers that could make a citizen go an extra mile down the road, the same soldiers that are the strong police force, the same soldiers, he is one of these soldiers. He could have said, Jesus, you're coming with me whether you like it or not. You want me to protect you in this town? You better come with me. Jesus, if you want me to help you, you better come with me. But he doesn't. He could have, as the Roman leader. But he says, I don't deserve for you to have come under my roof. Now, I suspect part of the reason he thinks that is he's got a lot of Roman gods in his house that he's been praying to for years. And Roman worship. And he's like, I don't think you would feel comfortable there. But so he says, I don't deserve. Which is even more fascinating when he even could have said something like this. Jesus, I know that you're not allowed in a Roman person's house. So I'm going to respect that. But his words were, I don't deserve it. This powerful military leader says, I don't deserve to have it come under my roof. In the scene that we played, you see that struggle playing out. Well, I'm an outsider. And so he tries to argue, and Matthew and Peter are constantly going, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I didn't think I was worth it either. Yeah, you're his favorite type. Yeah, this is exactly what he does. And so you see someone who's used to being in control, used to having authority, used to having people jump when he speaks, but faced with Jesus, faced with the crisis he can't solve, all of that external power crumbles, and what's left is raw, honest humility. Can I tell you something? That statement, I don't deserve, that's not a barrier to God's grace. That's a doorway. See, the centurion understood something that many of us struggle with. He understood that grace isn't about deserving. It's not about earning. It's not about being good enough or having it all together or checking all the right boxes. Grace is about God's goodness, not our worthiness. So let's get personal for a minute, because I think this kind of hits home to a lot of us. Maybe you're sitting here like the centurion. Maybe you feel like him a lot, like an outsider, like everyone else has faith figured out. Maybe you're still wrestling with doubts, confusion, questions. Maybe you feel unworthy because of your past, what you did this last week or 5 years ago. You made mistakes, big ones, and you can't just fix them overnight, and you can't shake this feeling that surely God could want someone like you. Maybe you feel unworthy because of your present struggles. While everyone else seems to have it all together, you're barely hanging on. Possibly because of depression or anxiety or addiction or relationship problems or financial problems or health problems or doubts. Whatever it is, you feel like damaged goods. Or maybe, like some of us in this beautiful but aging congregation, we feel unworthy because of what we're not. You're not the big growing church down the street. We're not reaching hundreds of people. We don't have the latest programs or the flashiest building. Sometimes you wonder if God even notices a small, older church like ours. Here's what the centurion teaches us. The very thing that makes us feel unworthy, our weakness, our struggles, our limitations, our awareness of our need, that puts us in the exact position to receive God's grace. It's a scandal of grace when you think about it. In verse 7, it says, "This is why I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you, but say the word, and my servant will be healed." The centurion is saying, Jesus, I know I don't deserve your time. I know I don't deserve your attention. I know I'm not the kind of person that you really want to pay attention to, that you want to spend time on, that you normally help. But I also know you have a power that nobody else does, and that I don't have. And I'm desperate enough to ask anyways. And Jesus is moved by this. And he even responds, I haven't found such great faith. In all of Israel, I haven't found such great faith. He's not impressed by his qualifications, but by his honesty. The scandal of grace is that God doesn't wait for us to get our act together. He works before we do. He moves in our lives regardless of us having our act together. He doesn't require us to prove our worthiness before he shows up. In fact, it's often in our moments of deepest awareness of our unworthiness that we're most open to receiving what only he can give. It's when we finally have grasped and finally have noticed and finally seen how unworthy we really are that we really begin to grasp how good God's love is for us.
That's right.
Even as a community. I know sometimes we look around and we feel small. We see the mega churches, we hear their big buildings, we huge crowds, and we wonder if this little church or maybe even matters.
Of course it does.
We're like the centurion looking at his limitations saying, Lord, I don't deserve to have you come under my roof. But here's what I want you to hear. Jesus didn't go where he was most deserved. He went where he was most needed.
That's right.
He went where he was most needed. He didn't seek out the perfect people in the perfect places. He was drawn to the humble, the honest, the desperate, the real. Our small size isn't a disqualification. It might put us in the exact position to minister to some people that may never otherwise be reached. And to experience God's grace in profound ways. Our limitations aren't barriers to God's work. They might be the very canvas that he's waiting to paint his glory. Here's what the centurion discovered. Unworthiness isn't the locked door keeping us from God. It's the open door, inviting us into his grace. When we stop trying to prove that we deserve God's attention and instead honestly acknowledge our need for it, that's when grace breaks through. When we stop trying to pretend we have it all together, and instead admit we're desperate for help we can't provide ourselves. That's when we position ourselves to receive what only God can give. When we stop disqualifying ourselves because of our past, our struggles, our size, our limitations, and instead bring those very things to Jesus, that's when we discover that his grace is sufficient for all of it. Well, we know the end of the story. The servant boy is healed. He was healed because the centurion was honest. to admit his need. The same Jesus who was moved by the centurion is here today. He sees our struggles. He sees our frustration. He sees our pain. He's not waiting for you to get worthy. He's inviting you to come, just as you are. Unworthy, yet welcome. Broken, yet beloved. Limited, beloved. And next week, we're going to finish and look at the rest of the story and understand his words, the centurion's words, and Jesus responds a little bit deeper. But I want you to think about the fact that grace shows up in unexpected ways. Unexpected places. The same door is open to you. The same door is open to me. The same door is open to a couple caught in a kiss cam. The same door is open to all of us. And we have the opportunity to respond to God's grace and move towards him today. One of the ways we respond to the grace of Jesus Christ is by the act of communion. Every month on the third Sunday of the month, we participate in communion. I remember sitting in a group of people one time, a student leadership conference at the college. And one girl refused to take communion because she didn't feel worthy. And the grace of a leader to go and say, here, it's still for you. So no matter how unworthy we might feel, communion is that act of saying, I'm responding to your grace. I'm coming to you. I'm moving towards you. I'm responding to you. Some people can't wait to get up and get there. But communion is the celebration of God's grace. Communion is saying, yeah, I know I'm unworthy, but your grace and your cross, I remember and I respond to. So you don't have to be a member of the church to come to communion. Communion is for anybody that is responding to the grace of Jesus Christ in our church. So you don't have to be a member of this church. You also, I won't force you to take communion if you don't feel like you are able to at this point. That's okay. But God's grace is still for you. So I'm going to invite you, when the song plays, I'm going to invite you to move towards the center and come and get the elements of communion, and then we'll hold on to it and we'll participate in communion.